Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you today on a day that's overcast and warm and definitely threatening rain. Definitely. You can feel it in the air. I bet it'll be here by nightfall. It's a huge system moving its way up the eastern seacoast, producing tornado warnings in Richmond, in the Richmond area. Any of you there? Did you hear sirens in the air? But I thought we'd go through the mail. I especially needed to turn on the camera and make videos for my imaginary booktube friends today because I have been watching the news, and that's always a bad idea. Where Merrick Garland's Justice Department just announced that it is going to broaden slightly its glacial investigation of the January 6th insurrection to overthrow the government of my country and install Donald Trump as a dictator for life. They've announced just recently that they are going to expand their investigation and start looking at the rally before the violent mob descended on the Capitol, chanting Trump, 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 and chanting hang Mike Pence. They're going to gingerly expand their investigation. I was reading the news of it, and I was watching a little commentary. There'll be a lot more commentary tonight that I hope I won't watch. There's no point in it. But I was reading the news, and I could just picture Merrick Garland sitting there in his elaborate, gorgeous office, thinking, yeah, we'll be very careful. We'll make sure that they're dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's. So this investigation should take about 3 years. When the investigation, such as it is, should take 3 days and should result not just in a white paper or some sort of recommendation to Congress or something. It should result in the arrest, indictment, and either lifetime imprisonment or execution of Donald Trump, who on January 6th called for a violent insurrection to overthrow the government. He called on a violent mob that was assembled in his name with his banners and his logos all over them to march on the capital of my country and take it by force. Fight like hell. He is manifestly guilty, both in the local court of Washington, D.C. and in federal statutes. And it was all done on live TV. The whole rest of the world looked at that footage and thought, oh, look, Donald Trump tried to take over the United States government. But not the Justice Department. No, not the Justice Department. So the worst traitor in American history, the greatest threat to American democracy in the history of the country, is being allowed to just court Russian interference and babble conspiracy theories to sycophant reporters and openly toy with the idea of running for president again. He's, in other words, a crazy but a free man, when the penalty for what he did is death. And I know that Merrick Garland is thinking that. He's thinking, well, I have a reputation to protect as a thorough, law-respecting guy, so I want this to take, I'm thinking about 3 years. He has 8 months. He has 8 months. The midterms are 8 months away in this country. After which, he will not have a budget for anything. He won't even be able to validate his employees' parking. There will be no investigation after that. There will be no January 6th committee in Congress after that to refer anything to the Justice Department. But the Justice Department certainly will not be allowed. Its budget will be gone. There'll be massive firings, and it won't be allowed to do anything. That's in 8 months. 8 months is all the time that's left. That's all the time that's left to do anything. In 8 months, Merrick Garland's Justice Department is going to have its budget zeroed out. And in 28 months, Merrick Garland is going to be in jail awaiting a death sentence. And he's going to have plenty of company. And I don't think in that jail, waiting for his death sentence, which will come extrajudiciously, it won't be involving a jury. I don't think when he's in that jail cell, he will be thinking, well, at least I preserved my reputation. I did the right thing in letting the manifestly, obviously guilty parties walk around free while I dithered. I litigated. He's a litigator. And that's what he's doing. while Rome burns. And that was the news. That was the front of the news that I was watching anyway. Maybe I was watching the wrong news. So I needed to turn on the camera and talk to my imaginary booktube friends about books, where we know the endings are always happy, right? But there was another thing. The news I can forget for the time that I'm making these videos. But I wanted to show you something. A number of you were emailing me asking about this, about Books of the Century. I found a trade paperback of this. It's a collection of New York Times book reviews going back 100 years. And it is a treasure trove, amazing to read through, just amazing to read through. But some of you were emailing me because you remembered that the trade paperback that I found just recently for free at the Prattle, thanks to credit from one of you, The previous owner, a raging a-hole named Mike, wrote his name in indelible magic marker on the cover. He wrote Mike on the cover, like he doesn't know who he is, or like he would forget that this book that's in his house is his. He just did that on the cover. I got the trade paperback because I thought, maybe with a gentle scalding hot water, a little soap, and a Brillo pad, maybe that can come off without tearing off the cover. And I thought even if it doesn't come off, I can make some sort of disguise. I can cover it up. And a lot of you wanted to know what I did with that. I found an old 18th century painting of me sainted ma, me, and my Deb reading. And I cut it to fit the corner where Mike's a-hole name is so that I could cover it up. See? There you go. So I've still got the cover, but I got rid of his name. I covered up his name, which is great. And in order to do that, I had to reinforce the front cover a little, but that's great because that would take the brunt of the punishment anyway. And I wanted to show you that. And also, oh my, I don't know if I could recommend this book. I guess maybe I could because not many of you are reviewers, but all of you are dedicated readers. So there's going to be quite a few books in here that you will have read. Maybe it'd be interesting for you to see what the New York Times pronounced about it at the time that it came out. I have been loving this. Watching the styles change in book reviewing, reading all the jokes that land and all the ones that don't, starting a book review and knowing right away that the book reviewer was angry when they wrote it. It's a testament not only to the changing tenor of book reviewing in America, in America's foremost book reviewing venue, but also the changing ideas of editors. Because you can have the greatest firebrand in the world. If your editor is timid, they won't let it run. They'll hamstring the piece. They'll neuter it. I guess it also happens, it's far rarer that you might submit a milquetoast piece, something that's close to a very well-paid book report, and you have a firebrand editor who says, I want you to punch this up. I want you to take no prisoners. If you don't, I will. It's great to watch that in here. I just love it. Love this book. So I was happy to renovate it with its new cover. I am trying to instructively read to the women folk to improve them morally. But we do have packages. We have 3 packages here, no boxes. But I'm still hoping that these are all finished copies for April. Finished copies for April are my next obsession. I need to fill out that shelf and figure out... okay, well, this next one is a finished copy. What have we got here? All right, this is a finished copy for April. Great. No sooner asked than answered. So what is this? Okay, I don't need your mother's recipe for bouillabaisse. So this is The Memory Librarian and Other Stories of Dirty Computer by Janelle Monáe. Okay. All right. From the groundbreaking musician, actor, fashion icon, and futurist Janelle Monáe, and an outstanding group of collaborators comes The Memory Librarian, which is on sale at the end of April, a collection of short fiction bringing to the written page the rebellious and Afrofuturist world of Monáe's critically acclaimed album, Dirty Computer. Okay, so these are stories derived from an album. So Janelle Monáe is a singer. Okay. Janelle Monáe, I know I'm not going to know any of these names, obviously. Afrofuturism and I don't tend to get along. If your idea of a bright, sprawling, complex future for black people can be boiled down solely to a few lasers and also all white people are evil, that's not much of a future vision. And I've read precious little Afrofuturism that didn't boil down to that. But I'm not going to know any of these names. Ayala Dawn Johnson, Danny Lore, Eve Ewing, Johanka Delgado, and Sherry Renee Thomas. I don't know any of those names. Although Danny Lore sounds familiar. Don't know why. They have delivered, anyway, that group of them have delivered a sexy, soulful, and dissident collection of tales that expands the bold vision of Dirty Computer. Okay, so do I need to hear this album before I read this book? Do I need to hear the album? It sure sounds like I do. In that album, Monáe introduced us to a world where people's memories, a key to self-expression and self-understanding, could be controlled or erased by an increasingly powerful few. And whether human, AI, or something in between, citizens' lives and sentience were dictated by those of the new dawn, who convinced themselves they had the right to decide fate, that is, until Jane 57821 remembered and broke free. Okay. And the pub sheet here says that the stories in here are grown from the soil of that mythos. Sounds like I need to listen to that album. I guess I could look it up and see. Maybe I could get a lot of the plot details. I'm sure they've been summarized ad nauseum in whole areas of YouTube that I never go to. And the pub sheet also says that this is perfect for fans of Octavia Butler, Ted Chiang, Becky Chambers, and Nnedi Okorafor. It's a story collection filled with the artistic innovation and brave themes that have made Janelle Monáe a global influence. Okay. Well, I don't know anything about this. It doesn't sound, much as I hate the phrase, it doesn't sound like it's for me. If it's for you, if, for instance, I held this up and you knew immediately what it was about, the Memory Librarian, I like the premise, very much so. But if this is a case, we've seen this over the years on this channel, if this is a case where I held this up and your eyes went all big and bright because this is a lot, you know this really well, it means a lot to you, then let me know, right? Let me know. And maybe you would like to review this. Wouldn't that be fun? If you're passionate about it anyway, then why not? So that is our first book. That is an April finished copy. Anyway, it's just a total void to me. So let's see what this next one is. See if it's the same way. Oh no, okay. All right. This is a finished copy of something that we've already seen. Good. I'm hoping for a lot of those. I kind of want to fill out. Oh my God! Look at all this paperwork. I kind of want to fill out my my April shelf with finished copies. So okay, all right, okay. I've got profiles. I've got blurbs. Do I have a? Oh, okay. There we go. Finally, this is something we've seen already. This is by Joan DeJean, and this is Mutinous Women in the finished copy from the folks at Basic Books. This also comes out at the end of April. Same release date, third Tuesday in April. That Janelle Monáe's book does. Let's see here, and we already went through this, but let's go over it again in case some of you missed it. A ship called La Mutine departed France in December 1719, carrying a unique cargo, the only all-female roster of deportees to the future United States. The women were convicts, in many cases wrongly accused or maligned as prostitutes, but the crash of the Paris Stock Exchange while they crossed the Atlantic caused their arrival at the Gulf Coast to be quickly forgotten by authorities. They restarted in the future United States, defying the impossibilities and constraints of their lives in France, and became a foundational part of the European settlement of the Americas through their achievements. And this book traces their extraordinary lives. Okay, so this comes out in late April. And I know very little about the subject. That's two books where I know very little about the subject, which actually, considering what a know-it-all I am, that actually pleases me quite a great deal. So let's see what this last one is. Hoping for another April finished copy. What have we got here? Am I right? Is that what this is? Yes, another April finished. All right, so it's a clean sweep of April finished copies. This is also something that we've seen already. This is the finished copy of The Unwritten Book by Samantha Hunt. Sounded really interesting when we heard about it the first time. Let's see if it holds up to scrutiny. So this is the author's first work of nonfiction, a genre-bending creation that explores the importance of books, the idea of haunting, and messages from beyond. In this extraordinary, eclectic, and mesmerizing, disobedient, and not quite classifiable work, all of those are in quotes. They come from somebody. They're not quite the pub sheet. They're all in quotes from somebody. No attribution is given here. The award-winning author Samantha Hunt grapples with questions of haunting in the broadest sense that confronted her after the death of her father when she opened a desk drawer to discover pages he'd left behind from a long-abandoned unfinished novel. Taking a cue from a reference book in her father's library, the Dictionary of Word Origins, a divining tool in Hunt's description, which leads the reader through the intricate etymological webs of seemingly unrelated words, the Unwritten Book unspools with a dreamlike associative logic, weaving disparate subject matter in surprising ways, blending criticism, memoir, and excerpts from her father's novel in progress, in which an editor at the Reader's Digest-like publication encounters a society of people who can fly without wings, the Unwritten Book is a kaleidoscopic meditation on art, life, and afterlife, and an extraordinary addition to Hunt's library of work, every bit as imaginative and indelible as her best fiction. So she's written fiction, including Mr. Splitfoot, which was briefly all the rage in the critical world. And it sounds like a large part of this is fiction as well. And I won't be ungentlemanly enough to suggest that the whole premise is fiction. I will just say that I'm not sure this is going to be genre bending. And of course, the most fictitious part of it will be that bit about messages from beyond. There aren't any messages from beyond, except the written ones that she found in her father's desk, which are the only kinds of messages from beyond. So this is a message from beyond, or will be in 100 years. Okay, great. Well, I remember being really intrigued by this the first time we saw it, and I am every bit as intrigued. And this is much earlier in April. This comes out in just a week. So I think it's high time that I read this. I will do that tonight. All right, so that's the mail. We have the Unwritten Book, the 3 April finish copies. The Unwritten Book, Mutinous Women, and the Memory Librarian, a collection of stories derived from an album that I imagine some of you know a lot better than I do. So feel free to sing out and let me know that. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.